Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Thank you again for taking the time to join another installment of ISV Connect Live. This actual session is pretty unique and something that I'm really passionate about, because when I think about initiatives like this, it is such a great opportunity to have Microsoft partners really come together to join something that's so impactful and important to our communities, to our earth, to our culture, et cetera, et cetera. So I want to welcome Mary from Bamboom Cloud, Travis from Honeywell, and of course, Gena, a peer of mine within Microsoft. So welcome all. Before we get to the meat of the discussion, let me set the tone for the conversation. First off, we love to hear and watch where, or listen and understand where you're watching from. So in the LinkedIn window, if you just want to type in, maybe you're watching from London, England, maybe you're watching from somewhere in the US, or maybe you're actually watching from Asia and you're up super late and you came across some of the social posts around this Bill for 2030 initiative. We'd love to have you comment in the screen where you're watching from, and we'll flash that up throughout the process. The second is, if you have any questions throughout this conversation that I have with Mary, Travis, and Gena, feel free to also put in that window, because I'm sure that this Bill initiative may spark some type of interesting conversation that you might have a question about. And of course, we try to spend time to drive a whole bunch of really great questions to ask our guests. And then finally, as you go and listen to the dialogue, if you just want to use one of the icons below, the like, support, etc., that also gives us an indication, understanding that the information that we're sharing is resonating. So with that being said, welcome to my trio of guests, two from a partner perspective and then one peer of mine. So as we get started, why don't we just, before we get introductions, why don't you share with our live audience or people watching the replay, Mary, Travis, and Gena, what's one thing that's not on your LinkedIn profile just to get us started? Because I always ask my guests on these calls to kind of get people to get to know each other. So Mary, I'll just kind of go from top right to bottom right to left to Gena at the end. So Mary, why don't you kick us off, and what's one thing that's not on your LinkedIn profile?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Brian. I would say maybe one thing that's not on my LinkedIn profile that I'm really passionate about is running. I'm an avid runner, and I usually like to run between 3 to 5 miles a couple times a week. So that's me.
Fantastic. Well, have you run a marathon? Have you actually run a 23.6? I think that's how many miles it is. 23.6 mile marathon yet?
I've done a half marathon, and I'm more like 5Ks. I love a 5K. I get my son to run 5Ks with me, so that's our happy space.
Okay, fantastic. I have not personally run a marathon. I used to run cross country. That's a known. I never shared that on a live session, but I actually used to run cross country and track back in high school, so I know some of those what it takes to actually run. But thank you, Mary. So Travis, yeah, great. So Travis, we'll go to you.
Well, first of all, I have to say, running is the thing that once I got out of high school athletics, I said, look, if I wasn't made to run, I'm not going to do it anymore. So that is not on my LinkedIn profile, nor shall it ever be. But I have some friends who are big time runners that you guys would love, and I'm just questioning their sanity. But for me, I'm everything outdoors. I mean, I love to fish. We've got here in Georgia so much to do, fishing, golfing, really anything that I can be outdoors doing, I love to do. So not too specific, but there you go.
I love it, Travis. So I guess what's the biggest fish you've caught? Is it this big? I mean, you hear the fishing stories. Is it?
Yeah.
What's the biggest fish you've caught?
Well, I don't have enough room on my screen, but no, and honestly, not anything too big. This past spring, I did catch about a 4.5 pound rainbow trout, which was it was a big fish. So that's probably the biggest outside of deep sea stuff, but everything grows big in the ocean.
Yeah, that's right. Thanks, Travis. Great. So Gena, well, last but not least, we'll go to you, and then we'll kick off the conversation.
Well, I was definitely thinking about all the travel I've done pre-pandemic, of course, but I've been lucky to travel for work. and for just vacation over the years. So I've been to more than 25 countries. Just really enjoy that, and a lot of times for work it's a bit of a, you're in there really quickly and you're out already, but it's just really nice to just get a feel for a place and a culture, however short it was. But yeah, I enjoy traveling very much and look forward to a time where I can do that again.
So last follow-up question, Gena, where's your most favorite place you've ever been around the world?
Yeah, I'd say Patagonia was the best.
Oh,
so
okay.
Yeah, that was really memorable. Went there and spent some time visiting the Perito Moreno Glacier, and that will be a trip that would be hard to top, but it was really lovely.
Yeah, and that's in Chile for everyone, correct? That's in South America, correct? Okay,
Yeah.
good. I'm like trying to remember my thing. I mean, we all wear Patagonia. I think a lot of us wear Patagonia clothing, but I've also had an opportunity, not to Patagonia, but to been to Chile recently before the pandemic hit, and that was one of a great place. If you haven't been to South America before, and Chile specifically, what an amazing country. So let's start out, Gena, talk about the initiative, the Build with 2030 initiative. So before we go into the depth of all the great conversation we'll have with Mary and Travis, just to set the tone for people who have not been aware of the Build for 2030 initiative, what is it, and what role do you play at Microsoft in driving this very important initiative and conversation?
Yeah, so thanks, Brian. The Build for 2030 initiative, so it's hashtag Build for 2030, was something that we started over the past 18 months. And it's really an effort to grow an awareness with the Microsoft partner ecosystem about the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, and to work together with our ecosystem to be driving new transformational solutions and services into market, and also recognizing partners who are already doing that work, already driving us forward toward inclusive and sustainable market opportunity. So that's really what the hashtag Build for 2030 initiative is. And we started first by showcasing partners already doing great work, and Bamboo Cloud with Mary, and then Honeywell with Travis were among the list of partners and solutions that we have featured this year. And we've been featuring partners aligned to several themes, right? So it was gender equality, sustainability, accessibility, enabling nonprofits, and empowering communities. Those are the 5 themes of the Build for 2030 initiative. And we've been showcasing solutions and services that are in support of that. And recently, and happening right now and live, is our Build for 2030 Hackathon. It's the first hackathon that we launched because we're looking to drive additional new inspiration and ideas and solutions into market. So we're super, super excited.
Fantastic, Gena. Thanks for saying that tone. And gosh, there's so many. You talked about the initiatives of gender equality, climate action, sustainability, digital inclusion, accessibility, enabling the nonprofit sector, and empowering communities. Gosh, what a great set of things to give back and to drive that, and the importance of how do we do that, not just alone as Microsoft, but with our partners. So that's a good segue. We'll start with you, Mary, first, and then we'll go to Travis. Mary, give us a sense for, what does Bamboo Cloud do? What do you do at the organization? And also, just to set the tone, because I do want to give a shout out to Mary specifically, because if you see behind her, strategically placed right behind her head and to the left of her your shoulder, if you're looking at the screen, the right of the screen, an MVP. And so what that means is that she has been recognized and designated as someone that is doing a lot of amazing stuff within the Microsoft ecosystem. So thank you for doing that. But so set the tone for Bamboo Cloud, and what do you do at the organization?
Yeah, thanks for the special shout out. That's always so humbling. Here at Bamboo Cloud, I'm head of our partner engagement, and one of my main roles is really to help partners jump into that dynamic space, specifically resell Business Central, without having the skill set, right? Again, there's like these nice things out there. Everyone knows that the dynamic space has more money essentially to earn for partners than just the modern workspace. So I'm here to help them without them having to have the skill set. And that's very true for kind of what we do in general at Bamboo Cloud. We really focus on that SMB space. We really want to find a way to make an inclusive environment for those SMBs and allow them to have a really state-of-the-art product without having to, maybe not have those original enterprise level funds, basically. So we work really hard to provide a really unique experience and help them achieve that.
That's great, Mary. So give us a sense for what are some of the initiatives when you think about Build for 2030 and all those things that Gena described. What are the areas that Bamboo Cloud and you and the organization, your company has done around that, and what value has it added to what you're doing?
Yeah, so last summer we kind of started on this adventure together. Kind of personally, some personal ties for me. I live in Lexington, South Carolina, but metro to here is Columbia, South Carolina, and there is a local women's shelter, Hannah House, and I kind of got linked up with them, and in talking to Kawan Fitch, the house mom there, basically, or the house manager. There wasn't a lot of tech, right? There wasn't access to computers. There wasn't access to Wi-Fi, right? And so for these women that were trying to get up and on their own, right? They're in it's a transition house, right? And so they're there with themselves and their children. They're trying to like make their next steps in life. And from a career standpoint, there's such a difference between like making ends meet and going from, paycheck to paycheck, opposed to like actually like excelling and getting a job that provides benefits and all these things. Well, the crux of these jobs are skill sets, right? And kind of where we are in this digital transformation age, if you don't have access, or if you don't have those skill sets, then you're really at a disadvantage, right? When we're talking about creating equality, right? And gender equality, I think it's making sure that these women that maybe don't necessarily have that because we're tied at home with kids and these different things, right? But giving us the ability to get these skill sets was really important. And then also, honestly, just to even keep benefits, you have to be able to provide things online, right? And if these women didn't have it, they're having to go down to libraries and trying to make that stuff happen. And then, I remember this little thing called COVID happened. And I don't know, there's some kids, a few kids, they couldn't go to school. So they had to go online, right, to finish school, which is a challenge for any parent. But what if you don't have a computer? And what if you don't have Wi-Fi, right? What do you do then, right? Like you're already at a disadvantage, to a certain extent on a day-to-day basis, right? Like in having a stable place to come home to. So for all of these reasons, it was so apparent that we had to help this nonprofit, local shelter get a tech center. So they said, we have this room. I said, great. Let me find some stuff, right? So I'm so lucky to work with Bamboo Cloud. They're like, this is what you're doing? Absolutely. So they came in and I was actually able to source some computers for that tech center through some local initiatives and Rotary and stuff. But at that point in time, by the time that Bamboo Cloud had heard what I was doing, because I didn't want to ask my employers for like help on you know what I mean? It's like, hey, you pay me every day. Do you also want to pour into some more stuff, right? So I was just kind of like funding stuff online, and then they saw what I was doing, and they're like, can you please, like, we would love to help. We really think that this is important. So we really would love to help. So Bamboo Cloud actually provides the yearly Wi-Fi access for the tech center, right? So they pay for all of that. So they have the access, and it was not an easy feat. It's an old hotel building in here in Columbia, and Columbia is, here in the South. So it's very, very old. It's a very, very old building. And you can't just get Wi-Fi, because at first people were like, just put an extender in. But we had to have it doesn't work in like a brick building and things like this, right? And it's so they had to come in like over the roof and like put in and feed down in the line. And so it was a lot just to get the Wi-Fi access there, let alone trying to pay for that. So Bamboo Cloud has paid for that. And then that was so great, and it's gotten so much, attention like locally. But in order to keep the women really safe there, we had to start another center, right? Because you can't just have people on and off the street coming into the tech center. But it was going so well. Let's do some more, right? So we decided we're going to open up a second tech center where, again, Bamboo Cloud actually provided all of the computers. We brought 5 desktops there. So now they're going to start like local tech skill training classes there. And kind of from a business perspective, right, it's like, oh, that sounds all great and philanthropic, right? But But from a business perspective, I really think that it's also given back, because I mean, it's our whole thing is how do we make, our product more inclusive for everyone else, right? So it's honestly, it's giving us some really good ground level perspective, right? Now, granted, we're not putting these people into Business Central, but it's understanding how do we meet some of the most basic needs of people, because their needs and their struggles, and when we're trying to train them in the situations that they're going through, it's no different than some other SMBs. Because what I've also found out, and kind of some things that I'm really excited for in the build for 2030 and this hack that we're doing, is kind of taking these partner networks and taking things like enabling and empowering these different communities and enabling gender equality, and also with the nonprofits. Because what I come to find out with them is Kawan actually has a whole program where she helps other people start nonprofits. So I said, Kawan, tell me about what's your number one problem? What are people seeing? She said, well, it's really easy to start them, but being able to actually re-up every 2 years, you have to re-up your nonprofit, right? Mm-hmm. So the amount of paperwork and bookwork and everything that goes into that is very difficult. It's so many, hoops and stuff to jump through. So she was explaining to me that's their number one challenge, right? And so my goal and hopes for in this, hack for 2030 is being able to combine all of this together and see, right, if maybe that there's an opportunity to kind of tie everything together and do that. And if we can do that for them, right, we also work from a partner standpoint. We work with nonprofits, all day long, and we could reach more, and so could other partners, right? If we can kind of crack the code on making it repeatable and easy, because what works for Kawan and Hannah's house will work for other partners as well.
Gosh, geez, I wish I had the applause, because I'm so inspired by everything you just said, Mary. What a great way to offer up something to a community of people that is in need. Because I totally agree. My wife is a teacher. She's not teaching right now, of course, because of my kids. But one of the things that really came to light, to your point of the pandemic, was the differences of where people are at with technology. Because we just assume, we all have a smartphone, we all have cell phone or Wi-Fi coverage and a computer. And that's not really the case. Even in an affluent neighborhood that I live in fortunate enough to live in the Issaquah area of Seattle. And that need of everything you described is amazing. I think one thing that would be great to after the fact is I'm going to put in the window when I get it from you, the actual nonprofit, this organization in Columbia, because for those of you who don't know, Microsoft gives all the way around, but as Gena knows, this month, in particular in October, is when Microsoft really leans in the US for giving and really celebrates that opportunity. And so myself as an employee, and also leading the initiative for our specific group this year, was fortunate enough to be one of the people to lead the initiative, is giving awareness to all these great nonprofits so that employees can actually donate time, money, or product. And then, similar to you about getting Bamboom Cloud to support it, Microsoft is very supportive of those things, and they match everything we do, volunteer hours, money, et cetera. They match that. So I'm going to get that from you so that we can put that in the feed, so people who do want to learn more about this women's shelter, et cetera, can actually give back.
Yeah, that'd be perfect.
Go ahead. So with this, Travis, let's go to you.
That's
what do you do at Honeywell, and some of the things that to follow what Mary was talking about, because your story and what Honeywell is doing is just as important, but it takes a different angle in how Honeywell is driving back to this initiative from a different perspective.
Well, thank you, and I tell you, that's a hard act to follow, Mary. Just to tee that up, but and I as you were going through, I've got to just make this comment. My wife also, Brian, is in preschool education, and even in Georgia, we have the Cyber Academy program in Georgia is just massive, and what you're doing at Bamboom, Mary, and that's just so critical. Who knew kids would be growing up in an age of a pandemic and cyber learning, right? And the technologies are so crucial. I think the great news is, companies like yours, companies like Microsoft, companies like Honeywell, and a lot of others. We're not alone, which is great. We have technologies across the spectrum that are helping in all of these areas. So I think it's fantastic work. So but yeah, getting back to I guess Honeywell and me. I joined Honeywell about 6 months ago, and I am leading the alliance marketing efforts with Microsoft globally. So director of alliance marketing, and just have really enjoyed getting involved with Microsoft on a number of different levels. A little bit about Honeywell. I mean, I think everybody's probably familiar at some, maybe you've gone to Home Depot, you've seen a um, air purifier or something like that, and didn't realize some of the other things that Honeywell does. So, quick summary: we've been in business for over 100 years, and we're cutting across major industries, not just consumer, but aerospace, building technologies, performance materials technologies. We've pioneered just in that space. You may not even realize we pioneered automation control so that we can really understand complex industrial facilities and how to create high quality and high performance chemicals and materials, safety products and solutions. So we do a lot and are innovating every day, in particular with solutions in this sustainability arena, which is really where we align. We align in a lot of areas with Microsoft, but for this particular initiative, sustainability is, of course, a key one. And I think the unity that we bring together is, we go back to the UN panel goal. I think most, a lot of people have heard of, right? The global carbon
Mhm.
neutrality commit by 2050. Well, Microsoft and Honeywell, I think it's interesting. We're committed to accelerating that, right? We want to beat those goals. So Microsoft is 5 years ahead of us. It looks like right now. So we've got to somehow catch up. But Microsoft's built for 2030. So Honeywell, we are targeting carbon neutrality for 2035. And to put our money where our mouth is, we have about 50% of our research and development budget going towards technology innovations that improve the environment, but also social outcomes. So, there's the, again, many ways that we do align, but that is a crucial one for this program. And I love to see the joint vision and the programs that we're putting behind it.
I love it, Travis, and I love the word that you said, improving outcomes, because that applies to what Mary was describing, and what Honeywell and what you're doing is whatever the outcome is, driving it to it's better. And we all have kind of unfortunately witnessed what global warming and the climate stuff has done to our environments. And example would be, I've lived up in the Northwest almost my entire life, and I've never seen wildfires for the past many years, consecutive years in my lifetime here. It's weird, but it's also now it's this weird norm where you just like, oh, okay, it's August. A couple of days out of the year, there's going to be bad air quality just because there's all these wildfires that have been occurring. And
Right.
I love how you describe Honeywell as driving towards carbon neutrality, sustainability, because it's so important with how do we take our resources and ensure that we're doing good back to the environment. So give us a sense for how is this initiative connecting to the goals, because you mentioned a little bit of an alignment, Travis. Like, give your perspective of how the Honeywell sustainability goals are aligning to this Bill for 2030 initiative that you're working with Gena.
Yeah, great question. I mean, at the end of the day, so Microsoft and Honeywell have come together to align on a certain solution set. So for Microsoft, you think about Azure, you think about the cloud, and you say, well, how does that tie to sustainability? Well, there's so much power in the cloud, and efficiency, security. Microsoft could explain the benefits of the cloud far better than I could. But when we combine that with the AI capabilities that Honeywell brings to the table, and specific solutions, I'm not going to go into the details of the products, but
Mhm.
specific solutions around two major areas are where we connect. One is around energy optimization. So you think about in a building environment, buildings are some of the biggest users of energy consumption. No surprise there.
Mhm.
So you think HVAC systems, and on down the line, every kind of device. So one of the things that we're able to do is take Honeywell technologies and monitor building activity. Right, we're able to see the usage of an HVAC system and create some automatic controls that help companies understand how much they're spending, where they need to cut back, not only from a specific building perspective, but also from a portfolio perspective. And then the other area that we bring, I think, tremendous value is in predictive maintenance. So assets, let's face it, an aging asset is kind of like your car, right? The older that it gets, the more expensive it
Mhm.
becomes to maintain. And if you think about, well, if I only knew that my carburetor or my catalytic converter was going to go out, what would I have done differently, and how much money could I have saved? So apply that to legacy assets that are in industrials, plants, buildings, et cetera, and being able to through AI and through IoT, being able to predict when something is going to fail and take proactive action towards that. So we bring these together, and when we combine them as a solution, we're really helping solve this overall problem of sustainability.
Well said, Travis. I think the term that I think a lot of people continue to hear, smart buildings. This whole idea of like, okay, you walk into a building and it knows exactly what's happening to your point, proactively then maintaining it so that before something happens, you actually can do something about it. But to exactly your point too, if no one's in the building, turn all the lights off. Or I mean, simple things like that.
Yeah.
Where it's funny. I think all of us have been in the experience. You go into a conference room. And then if everyone else leaves, but you're sitting in there wrapping up the kind of notes and stuff like that, and you haven't been moving and stuff other than typing, the lights turn off. And so you have to wave your hands and all that stuff. And I think everything you're describing, Travis, is exactly what needs to happen around all the communities to, again, be good stewards of our earth that we can't recover from if we get to a point where we get too far and it's too late to do something about it. So I love it.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I do want to call out, there's a couple of people, and I know, thanks Mary for chiming in, because we had a few questions or comments that came in. So I'm just going to flash it up here. So John did ask a question. And so Mary, thank you for replying back, because again, I think everything you were talking about is an opportunity. You think about all these people who are wanting to learn and take an opportunity, and not to be biased to Microsoft. It doesn't have to be by Microsoft technology, even though we'd like to see that. But I love how you replied back on it is a marathon and a sprint. And I'm just going to post up here with the comments you made back. Is there anything you wanted to add to this, just at a verbal level?
Yeah, I mean, just kind of highly, I would say, initially that was my first goal, like going into there, right? Honest, I was like, oh, the Power Platform can change everyone's lives. It changed mine. It can change theirs too, right? And that was kind of the initial, literally what brought me into walking into the door, and quickly realized that that it's just not quite as simple as that. And honestly, the biggest challenge that I face in the situation that I've looked at with them is getting people to change their mindset that they deserve something more, that they are truly capable, and that somebody's not just here to trick them. Is really the biggest challenge that I face in that. So, for people listening, that anybody that has like ideas or been through something like that, that's kind of some of the help that that of course we want D365. It's not to downplay that thought of it. It's just going to take a little bit more time to get there. But yeah, I'll do what we can.
Yeah, no, thanks, Mary. Yeah, because trust is hard, because sometimes when you're coming from whatever backgrounds you're coming from, you have to earn the trust to be able to go, oh my God, are they doing this? Is there some hidden agenda? And there's not, but that's unfortunately the scenario that people come across.
Right.
And then to you, Travis, it was nice. Karen had this nice comment, love sustainability focus, and by partnering together, we'll really drive our sustainability goals with customers, and we can't do it. You're exactly right. Like, no one company on this planet can do it by themselves. It takes a village, it takes a partnership. And it's amazing that for both of your organizations who have invested in this initiative, which is fantastic. And I can't applaud enough. I love how we took an opportunity to spend one of our sessions to talk about this, because it is such an amazing way to give back in many different ways, and not just personally, but for your organizations, and we're driving the initiative. So that being said, I know we're going to get to the bottom of the hour and getting close to the ending. So Gena, why don't we take us home, and you could talk about kind of next steps on the initiatives. How do partners, like, again, for partners listening to this, because we do have a lot of Microsoft partners, the people who follow me or maybe come across this, how do other partners similar to Mary from Bamboo Cloud and Travis from Honeywell, how do other partners get involved and get started and to start either being part of the initiative for impact, or developing you mentioned the hackathon, how do they potentially even get involved in a hackathon?
Yeah, well, so thanks, Mary and Travis. I just love to hear the stories again and again. And you know, Brian, when Brian invited me to come and talk about the hashtag Build for 2030 initiative, the first thing that we were thinking about is how can we get partners in the room, because it is through your stories that we can really see how partners get started. You know, in the Bamboo Cloud's case, it was a lot through the initiative of Mary, and then the organizational purpose and her individual purpose came together. And, you know, like what Mary was teeing up with where this is going, right, with the hack project that she's working on, is that ultimately it is about doing good. And I think all of us want to do good, but it's also really about connecting back to the business objectives. And the data is also showing that, you know, when companies are purpose-led, they build the trust that we're talking about, and it takes time. It's not like you're in and you're out, but if you're purpose-led and the groups and the communities you serve in see that, that's just a really, really strong backbone of trust that you can build up over time with your customers and your communities. And then purpose-led businesses also show 30% more innovation. So, you know, all that thinking that Mary was talking about for sure. And then, you know, with sustainability, it's such a huge challenge, right? And we literally need all companies of all sizes, large and small, from the likes of Honeywell really leading the way here, like together with Microsoft, and then enabling smaller businesses and the broader Microsoft partner ecosystem to see an opportunity in that as well. To ask some bold questions is what we invite all partners to do. Figure out where their role is in building for impact, supporting the SDGs. The 5 themes are a great place to start. And if you look up the hackathon landing page, it would be aka.ms/Microsoft-build for 2030-hackathon. You can see all the 5 themes with the challenge statements. And if you join the community from that page, we have a whole list of challenge prompts, market context, technical resources that you can engage with, and you can network with other partners that are participating as well, like Bamboo Cloud or Honeywell or others that are in that space. So definitely encourage all partners to look into this, consider how you're driving purpose, and then capture that opportunity that's really growing steadily every day around inclusion and sustainability. I think it will be a great way to differentiate and a great way to bring purpose to the heart of your business and you know, inspire your employees and customers as well.
Yeah, no, thanks, Gena, for that great wrap up. And so the content that she was referring to, plus all the great information from Travis and Mary, we put this in a nice compiled link. So if you just want to take a snapshot of this or save it for later, it's just aka.ms/LinkedIn Live Build for 2030. So there's a whole bunch of the links that Gena talked about that are in here, plus a link for Honeywell and a few links from Bamboo Cloud. So a great way to get engaged. So gosh, I can't thank all of my guest speakers enough about sharing the stories. And thank you, Mary and Travis, for a partnership across both your organizations, but also the work you are supposedly doing behind the scenes to really drive some very important things that make an impact in people's lives and to our greater good. So any last comments before we wrap it up and close it out for the day?
Have a great day.
Just thank you. Yeah, we so appreciate the partnership with Microsoft, and thank you for allowing us to come on today.
Great. Thanks for having us.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Brian. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, thanks, everybody, for joining. Continue to be well, be safe. Again, we do these sessions every Monday at 8 o'clock. Next week, we're actually going to be highlighting an ISV that does things in healthcare. It's actually our partner of the year for healthcare called MASIC. So stay tuned for next week. But again, thank you, Mary. Thank you, Travis. Thank you, Gena, for the time.
My pleasure.
And take care, everybody. We'll talk soon.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.